Welcome back, guys, to another episode of Business from the Bass Boat Podcast on the Serious Angler Network. Guys, tonight we have got an awesome show lined up, one that I am very excited to talk about. We have in our bottom corner here Omnia as one of our partners for 2022, and we have none other than the co-founder himself, Matt Johnson, coming on. A lot of really unique things in the tackle space, the online tackle retailer, and some unique aspects of their business that I've taken a lot of interest in, and am happy to get him on and talk about all that he's got going. Matt, how are you?
Good. How you doing, Adam?
I am doing well, man.
Good.
I am doing well. Hopefully you are surviving the winter in the Great White North. I guess not Great White North, but you're north.
We're way up here. Yeah, it's below zero right now, so we're trying to stay in and hibernate a little bit.
Hibernate, man. I like it. I like it. Well, you are in the place with so many lakes. I've spent just a little bit of time in Minnesota, both one time with work in Minneapolis and then another time fishing. But I just guess have some awesome country and a lot of untapped and tapped waters, but just so much water.
Definitely. It's hard not to run into one. I actually grew up on Lake Superior, the biggest of them all, so used to being around water all the time.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Well, great. Well, Matt, I guess I really wanted to get you on the show to basically get a history on Omnia. But first, let's dig into yourself, what really brought you here. Maybe talk a little bit about your career leading up to this. And that's kind of what this show is all about. So I guess where did things kind of start for you on the career side? And then we'll kind of maybe go into the fishing or vice versa, however you want to do things.
Yeah, well, I'm happy to do it. Actually, all kind of blends together. I haven't had a real job in quite a few years because I've been in the fishing world for 10. So, but that's almost all by accident. I actually started out as a lawyer and was
Okay.
practicing law and met a good friend of mine. This was about 2007 to 2010 was practicing law. I met a friend of mine and we came up with this idea. We were actually on a boat and we were looking at a depth finder and we were just watching the screen just scroll and scroll and scroll. And we decided that you should be able to harness that information. And so in 2010, we left our jobs and we started a company. The company was called Contour Innovations. And we created this mapping service where basically you go out and log your sonar, upload it to your account, and it would kick out a map for you. And we realized like we could create a lot of cool stuff with that. And so the first people that we actually sold the service to were government agencies, and they were using it to use sonar to map invasive plants. And so while originally like we got the idea as anglers, we ended up creating this business out of this government tool that they could monitor invasive plants. We could show them not only where the bottom was and how hard the bottom was, but we could tell them the top of plant in the water column, which is really important from a biological standpoint. And so we got a lot of traction with that business, and then we had contacts with the people at Lowrance, and they asked us if we wanted to work together on creating a consumer product. And so I don't know if you or any of your listeners are familiar with a product called Insight Genesis.
Absolutely.
But, yeah, so we basically took our platform and created Insight Genesis with Lowrance. And then they bought the company in 2014. And so I spent the next couple of years working for Lowrance. And my job went from being CEO of a software company to being head of business development for the digital arm of Lowrance.
Okay.
And that meant I got to fly all over the world and get out on boats with people and teach them how to use this mapping service.
Wow.
So so I got to go to like 17 countries and fish all over the place. And it was a pretty cool deal.
That's incredible. I mean, just so I remember when Insight Genesis was really first kind of coming out. I believe I was in college, and and fishing in college and whatnot. And there was like a competition for the amount of I don't even know if it was acres or whatever it was.
Yeah, that was my program. That's crazy that you know that. That's right. That was like 2000. That's probably 2015.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, man. So no, that would have been my freshman year of college, and that is wicked. I've been with this podcast. It's crazy how many connections you end up finding. Just the fishing world's small, but that is That's incredible. So that was your program basically, and it was like incentivized. I mean, there was like kids mapping forever and ever. And in Colorado, we've got just a couple of small lakes, so it's a pain in the like. I mean, I could just do laps around my same lake, but it was incredible. Some guys were dedicated to that program.
Yeah, they definitely were. It was a great program, and we have to be really careful on in the fishing world of like sharing information or giving away spots. And I think the first thought was if you go out and map an area and then upload it and you made it public, that would give away spots. But what really ended up happening was we're all using the same old government maps for the most part. And even some of the top brands were just digitizing government maps. So what ends up happening is everybody who thinks they know the lake and they know the spots based on those maps, they actually were getting that information all from the same spots. So when you started creating these really detailed maps using user data,
Mhm.
all these people were collaborating, and it was showing that the humps looked different, and there were more of them, and there were holes in spots that people didn't really know about. Actually ended up dispersing the anglers a little bit. So we got a
Mm.
really lot of traction from helping people kind of collaborate and build better mapping. So that was a super fun project. I really enjoyed that. And during that process, I formed a lot of relationships with people in the industry. And I'd always been an angler, but I didn't know the business of fishing. And so through that process of head of business development for Lowrance, I got to meet a lot of people, and honestly, I was kind of looking for my next thing, and through lots of conversations, we came up with the idea for Omnia, and the idea was like everybody is trying. You go to the tackle store, and for the most part, a lot of dedicated anglers know what they're looking for.
Sure.
But it's pretty overwhelming for the majority of people, and you're looking at a husky jerk bait that comes in three sizes and three dive depths and 75 different colors. And that's a lot of selection. But the cool thing about it is, for the most part, they've been built for specific clarities and structures and species and time of year. And
Yeah.
so we said we're going to build a platform to try and create a really personalized shopping experience. And what we're going to take some of the details that we know about how to map data. And so what we did is we built an algorithm that basically associates values of the water body like clarity and structure present, forage base, location, time of year, pattern, things like that, species present, and we'll match them up with key products, and then have a system that learns and gets smarter and smarter and smarter. And so the goal is to just try and help people gain confidence in their tackle selection and gear, and try to create this very personalized experience. What ends up happening is you build these communities, similar to my first company. Build these communities around water bodies for people to talk about. They're hitting on this specific X zone, soft plastic in a drop shot on the edge of a weed line. And now we don't have to talk about location, but we can talk about products, and we can talk about what works in real time. Take that 75 different colors, and quickly you start narrowing it down to 5 or 10. And that was our goal, to just try and help and transition some of the sales to online, especially for the demographic of angler who is pretty overwhelmed and is seeing a pretty rapidly declining experience in store. And so we started talking about it, and I built a group of founders. There's three of us now. One's an industry vet and has been around tackle and the space for a very long time, and one's a technologist. And the three of us came together and created Omnia.
Awesome, man. Well,
So
and
that's how I accidentally fell into fishing for 10 years. I never intended that to happen, but here we are.
I feel like that's people's best careers are were never intended,
By accident. Yeah.
from that aspect of things. But man, that's such a cool story, and to me, the things I think that create the best products are the situations that solve problems. And like you said, when it comes to a high level tournament angler or something, you know what you're looking for when it comes to tackle selection. But we have to remember, and I think this is important for the entire fishing industry, the vast majority of people fishing and people getting into fishing have no high level, don't have nearly that high of a level. And I feel like too many times we just assume, and including myself on the show all the time, it's like I start talking about something and it's like there's probably a lot of people who maybe don't necessarily understand that. So I think that's a great thing to remember in the fishing industry in general, is that we're not all just absolute nuts, and you have to help people kind of get into things. And I think that this is a great concept.
Yeah, I think you hit it right on the head. When we looked at the numbers, we were amazed that like 85% of tackle sales are still happening in store, and an overwhelming majority of that happened between two key big box retailers. And that's just not right. And you know, they're pushing into private labels. That's just, I don't think that they're trying to create a better experience for the anglers. And that's really what we're dedicated to. We're trying to create a better experience. And I think you nailed it when you said, for the most part, people need help. That's why they're still going in. That's that question: where are you going, and what do you want to catch? And I'm hoping that somebody knows, and they can give me the products to give me that confidence and instruct me along the way. And I have been absolutely blown away by the number of tournament anglers who want to be a part of our system, that buy
Mhm.
a lot of tackle from us, and then they'll actually report the lakes that they used it on. And they don't talk about location, but they talk about what products are working. A lot of those guys have relationships with brands, and they get to highlight, you know, this was the bait, and they get to show the fish that they caught it on. And so then what we do then is surround that whole experience. You're talking about table rock, talking about this specific technique. Here are the baits that match. Here are the colors that match the clarity values. Um, and then we create a lot of content in-house and with our pros that then explain drop shotting is hot right now. Here's how you rig a drop shot. Here's the three most popular drop shotting hooks. Here's the three most popular drop shotting soft plastics. Here's the reel and the spinning reel you should be thinking about using. Here's the action of the rod. And we try and surround that whole thing, and it becomes kind of this education experience as part of the purchase process. And that's exactly what we set out to do, is essentially replace that in-store experience, and do it with tons and tons of selection. I mean, we're very quickly becoming one of the largest selections online, but
Mhm.
we recognize that just having more selection isn't necessarily right for the bulk of anglers. So we want to have massive amount of selection for the tournament angler that knows what they're looking for. We don't want to miss a sale there, but we also want to refine that set down for somebody that needs a little help. And the nucleus of that experience really is location and lake. And so we've really built that whole system, and we have just been on a rocket ship. It's been such a fun ride so far.
That's awesome. Awesome. And founded in 2018, is that correct? Is when
That's right.
the ball started rolling?
Yeah, so we left our jobs in 2018. You could transact on the site by kind of early 2019, but we
Okay.
really couldn't. You couldn't deliver on the whole experience. 2020 was really our first full year, and like you know, COVID hit, so it was a very weird thing. But what's cool is
Sure.
it forced everybody to try and figure out how to buy tackle online,
Uh-huh.
and here we were ready for it. So people asked if we knew that pandemic was coming, and we say, "Yep, we did."
Absolutely. We timed
We
it
knew.
perfectly.
So then I was worried, is 2021 going to be slow now that people can go buy in store? And it was definitely not slow. So that was a good thing.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I think along that point, like as far as recessions or everything, anything in that matter, like some of the best businesses are created during those time periods or when something like that happens. We're seeing such a jump in the fishing industry in general of new people coming in. And it's kind of one of those deals where a rising tide raises all ships or however that goes. But basically, it's a good time to be in the fishing industry, and I'm glad to hear you got in literally at the best time, as
Yeah.
far as with Omnia, that is.
Yeah, I mean, we had so much demand. We actually had trouble last year because I think our SKU count we had like 10,000 products last year, kind of at the height of the season.
Right.
And we operated with almost a 50% in stock rate. We didn't have the relationships built yet with the vendors. We didn't have our orders in early enough because we were so new. And so we lost a lot of sales. We just missed a ton of sales just because we couldn't get the products, and we could sell anything we'd get in. We have this feature on the site where if you're looking for something, you can go in and click notify me when it's back in stock.
Yep. Yep.
We'd have 9 zillion reels come in from Daiwa, and they would be checked in by our inventory team, and they would go right back out the door in 20 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah,
Just for
and we
That's
couldn't meet the
crazy.
demand.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was like the downside of the whole thing. So we did great, but now we're going into 2022 with millions in inventory. We're going to be hit 20,000 SKUs here. So we've doubled or tripled every
Doubled.
single year.
Yeah.
And what's really cool about it is the brands who have said we have to have this relationship with Big Box, and they know they have to have it, but they're somewhat hamstrung by it. And
Mhm.
that's really one of the challenges of it. They have looked to us as a true partner because they get to connect with the consumer, and they get to explain why they built products a certain way, because we have the communication that's personalized, that if we know that you fish a lot of drop shots, we can put some of those products in front of you and say like, hey, check out this from this brand and check out this from this brand, but we don't have to show it to somebody that just frogs or just pitches docks all day.
Sure.
We can create that really personalized experience, and the brands see that. So what's ended up happening is they've seen our rapid growth, but they've also seen our commitment to the consumer. They've also seen that we're growing so quickly that now all of a sudden the brands are paying attention and they're giving us incredible allocations. I don't think we're going to have a supply chain issue like we did in 2021.
Yeah. Well, that's that you bring up a good point as far as the big box store situation, and really just through the show, I can recall a couple episodes with rod builders and then folks who have these rod companies, and my gosh, I mean, the situations that they would kind of go through with big box stores and issues that they had, and like you said, allocating a certain amount of product and being forced to allocate a certain amount of product is an issue for the industry in general. So it's good to hear that some of these suppliers are viewing this as a more personalized relationship for you and the consumer and are valuing that.
Right, right. And we're seeing the commitment from those brands who do care about the consumer, that want to connect with them, they want to have a relationship with them, and they see Omnia as one of the fastest paths to that.
Awesome. Awesome. And man, I'm hearing like a little bit of echo. Are you hearing that on my end? Maybe it's in my
No, no.
no. I think it's my echo, but
Oh
I don't
no. Yeah, sorry, I don't hear it.
okay. Okay, good. Well, I guess in that first window in 2020, and things were starting to roll really quickly. What were some of your biggest challenges in that really that first year where you were shipping stuff out? Obviously, you already explained the aspect of just having the product itself, but what were some other of those beginning challenges once the site was up and orders were taking place?
Yeah, well, so probably two big categories. The first being technology. A lot of e-commerce companies don't have a chief technology officer, but because we really are a technology platform, we had to continue to invest in that experience. And so it's a hard thing to do. Engineers are hard to find. We were trying to navigate it during COVID. So I think that was probably the hardest thing. And then we have to make bets on how we want the site to work to try and service the customer the best way we can.
Mhm.
So I think that was probably our biggest challenge, to start. And then second was just scale. When we started the company, we were in a 2,500 square foot warehouse, which is pretty small.
Yeah.
And the space next to us was 7,500 square feet. And we found out that the company that was in that moved out. And so we needed more space quickly, and it was like we're trying to do this during season and trying to forecast demand. We just outgrew our space so quickly, and
Wow.
so I connected with the guy from the company next door, and I said, "Can we swap spaces? Because he still need a little space." And he said,
Mm.
"Yeah, that sounds great." And like on the dot, I went and got my Sawzall, and I cut this huge hole in the wall in this big warehouse, and we knocked the wall down, but kept it in one piece. And then we put all of our racks on wheels and just wheeled them through the hole. I put the piece back up and we mudded and taped it up and then swapped spaces with him. And it was like we went from having 2,500 square feet to 7,500 square feet in like an hour.
Wow.
And and it was like that, but we had to, like, it had to work out perfectly or else we weren't going to have enough space. So those are just crazy challenges. Like if that wouldn't have come around and we wouldn't have had an opportunity like that, um, it wouldn't have worked. Like we would have had to like disappoint a lot of people. And so that was another really big challenge, is just trying to keep up. And
Sure.
now we knocked down another wall, and so now we're in 10,000 square feet,
Wow.
and we're in the process of trying to find 30,000 square feet right now. So it's like just the process of trying to run a business, uh, hundreds, thousands of orders sometimes in a day, and then how are you going to pick that up and move that somewhere without having a big disruption? Uh, it's
Gosh.
it's tough. It's growth. Growth is tough.
It's exciting, man. It just having yeah, finding the real estate to even to keep expanding like that. Sounds like you're getting pretty good at knocking down walls.
Exactly.
That's I
Exactly.
mean these stories are kind of my favorite. The entrepreneurship side of in that last minute situation, okay, well, we got to do something. Here's what we got to do. We got to knock down this wall and blow stuff up. I mean, I guess What's and I saw even how much you lit up in that, like you were very excited there. I mean, in your experience just in entrepreneurship, in your previous businesses, uh, where has that kind of helped lead you to where you are now as an entrepreneur with Omnia?
Yeah, that's a great question. I've had some entrepreneurial success in my life, and I've done a lot of dumb things, and I've made a lot of mistakes, and I've wasted a lot of time doing some really stupid things that I thought, based on the information that I had at the time and the skills that I had developed at the time, were the right move, and turned out they weren't. And I don't think that somebody who has built a company from idea to a successful exit, or a functioning product even, I don't think that that guarantees that the next one's going to work.
Mm,
But there is a guarantee that you can streamline the process. There are things that and what was cool for me is going through that process. When I had sold my first business, I started operating as a mentor. The goal is to always trying to make your local market have successful entrepreneurs that are starting businesses. And there were things that I had screwed up that when I would talk to these entrepreneurs, they were about to screw up as well. And I had like forgot that I knew that, and I like had a story to explain, like to provide some more details to how to think through that process. And so I think you just have the opportunity to streamline a little bit, and we definitely hit the ground running. Omni almost felt like it kind of became its own thing, and it got off and running on its own. And that was a pretty cool process to see. And I think that was just strength of the founding team. I think it was, my partners are incredible. They're just really smart people,
mhm.
and so we just kept building a really smart team at Omnia. And I think the result has been this has grown much faster than we ever could have anticipated. And like some things, I was just having this conversation with my co-founder Chris today.
Mhm.
I I said, "Are you amazed at how much people spend on tackle?" It's like we don't know what that's gonna look like, and you don't know what a cart's gonna look like. And we've just been blown away by the response and how big the need was. And we've just been able to kind of navigate and avoid some of those pitfalls that we caused or we went through in the first part of it. And we've just been able to get Omni on a pretty good trajectory for growth.
Awesome. Yeah, the comment with the tackle, the first thing I noticed with Omnia is when I found the whole premium or membership deal, I was like,
Yeah.
this is an absolute bargain because I will blow through that number so fast. It's not even funny when
That's
it
right.
comes
You're gonna get that money back right away.
right away, man. It's
Yeah.
people are crazy with tackle, and I think that like if you took a tally of your tackle for your entire life, I think especially with hardcore people, it would be astronomical the number that people spend on tackle.
That's right. It's totally true.
It's just wild. One thing I wanted to go back to there when you were talking about mentoring and that side of things on the entrepreneurial level and
Mhm.
growing your local area, I guess, is that with a like a group or how does that my own personal curiosity when it comes to that is that a group in your local area or how does that exactly work?
Yeah, good question. So typically in markets like the Twin Cities, which is a sizable city, you,
Mhm.
you end up with kind of like some groups of people that are stupid enough to try and start a business, I guess. And you kind of get plugged into those. And so, like I said, I don't think that the fact that you've had some success, there's a lot of luck involved in having success in business. But at the same time, kind of figuring some of those things out, those pitfalls that I was mentioning.
Yeah.
People want to tap into that, and they want to kind of find out how crazy they actually are in pursuing an idea, or like what the limitations of their opportunity are. And so I just, I knew a lot of CEOs of small startups that had gone on to do fantastic things and have grown some great businesses. They become investors, they become advisors, and I just these kind of networks naturally form. And now, so Minneapolis has had a pretty good startup scene for quite a bit of time, and there are actually some CEOs who've had some good exits that have built like buildings where they bring in entrepreneurs and like try to help them kind of cultivate their ideas. And I've been plugged into a few of those, and I've tried to help out along the way. I've helped fund a few small startup businesses, a couple software companies, and I've tried to participate to try and give back to the community, because I relied on a lot of people for some advice along the way. And so yeah, so there's a pretty healthy community of people here in most markets where you can kind of tap into and try to gain some knowledge.
Yeah, and really that was coming from in college. This was always is a big part of my passion has been kind of this fishing side and business entrepreneurial side. And same kind of deal. It seems like in these select markets in Denver, in Boulder, in Fort Collins, Colorado, there's these kind of situations where multiple startups are all kind of forming and all these little
Mhm.
businesses. And like you said, is and you can rely on each other, and there's so much value in others people's lessons learned. So you're not the one learning it for the first time. Everyone's going to have first time lessons, but it certainly helps to have someone along the way that's maybe, like you said, seen some of those similar
Yeah.
pitfalls.
Yeah, in the kind of the new underdeveloped markets, it's kind of natural where they just come together, and it's not like formal incubation. But then you get these programs, and like TechStars has a couple different programs in Minneapolis where they actually bring entrepreneurs from outside to bring them into the metro, where we have really big companies and professional sports teams, and like those all become these kind of side mentors to your idea. And Minneapolis has been a fantastic place to have a fishing company because there are so many anglers here. People speak that language. Big companies like Rapala and some of those companies are all here, right here in the metro. So it's a good place, and you can kind of rely on industry vets, people that have started businesses, engineers, marketers, things like that, to really get your business up and humming.
Sure, sure, and then it's, I mean, and I feel like those markets are beneficial too. Another one kind of in the fishing industry that comes to mind, and I could be wrong here, but I believe like in South Carolina, there's a pile of kind of these conglomerate companies within
Mhm.
the industry, and I feel like anytime you're in that situation, you just have such a springboard for ideas, and you see some of these situations where things combine and grow and
Mhm.
create incredible brands.
Yeah. What we found when we were starting Omnia is we met with a lot of these major companies because we had connections to them from our previous life.
Hmm.
And we had said, this is what we're going to do. What do you think? And it got such a strong response. They wanted to kind of help. And we found that quite a few of the companies were extremely supportive in the early days. They still were kind of saying like, I want to see you prove that you're capable of doing what you, because it's a big endeavor.
Hmm.
And so we're right at that inflection point now where we've done a lot, and we've been able to prove it, and we've done a lot of what we said we were going to do. And so from here, it really is about like, how do you stomp on the gas? How do you connect with more consumers, and continue to treat them like, it's kind of easy to treat your customer great when you're small.
Sure.
How do you continue to maintain that culture as you grow past it? And it really has been a challenge to figure out how to make sure our voice scales. And we've enjoyed that whole process, but we're right at that inflection point now where it's time to kind of blast through and really grow. And I think the bigger that we get, the more vendor relationships we get, the better we can serve customers with product. The bigger our team, the faster our response time. All of that is all improvements that we make. We're just going to be bigger and faster.
Sure, sure. No, that's a really good point. I mean, I think you've seen everyone in some aspect of their life has probably seen both sides of being a consumer in a situation where your mom and pop shop was just incredible customer service, and then as something grows and takes off to the point where it's not necessarily even the company's not trying to provide less of a service. They just literally have so much more demand. So
Yeah.
I think that is an incredible challenge to overcome, and it sounds like you guys are right at that point and looking to excel in that aspect of things.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we just doubled our warehouse team, just doubled our customer support team. We're really picky. We spent a lot of time with that process, and so far we've seen good results.
Awesome, awesome. Well, one question I have too, and just scrolling through, and this is a very just on my part of not really fully understanding some of this these I would say investors and these different angel investing groups and all this kind of a thing. Scrolling through kind of Omnia's pages, you can see these different investors associated. I mean, was that process your previous relationships in being around all this kind of a thing to where you guys were able to get some of that capital? I mean, is this kind of the commonplace that you're seeing in the industry as a whole right now? What's kind of your thoughts around that sort of a thing?
Yeah, that's a good question. As I mentioned, that these kind of informal groups kind of start popping up once there's been some successful startups and exits and in our market, and so some of our early fundraising did come local.
Mhm.
We've expanded from there, and we've now had more national venture capital that has looked at our business, and so the early part really was tapping into an existing network. But it's a grind. You're out pitching and trying to sell this dream of what you think you can build,
Mhm.
um, and trying to build a narrative to that. We were really lucky. We were able to connect with some angel groups in the early stage. One of the biggest one is called Gopher Angels, which is in Minneapolis.
Sounds
Gopher,
Minneapolis like,
yeah,
yeah.
right. And Gopher has a fairly formal process, which is kind of nice. They bring all of these they bring all of these accredited investors together, and then you get to pitch like a big auditorium, and then you get to connect directly with the ones that show interest in what you're doing, and so that was kind of what kickstarted our business,
Yeah.
and we use that to like hire the engineering to get the technology all built quickly. We had to build out our algorithm, which is fairly complex, and so we were bringing in engineers to help with that process, and then it kind of lays the foundation to start with the stocking and start to build out our warehouse operation. So we started pretty small, and we just kind of like we set milestones for ourselves, and we said, we need enough money to get to this next milestone, raise that round, get to the next milestone, and so far we've stayed so focused. We've been very capital efficient,
Mhm.
and the goal is to build a very big business without having to raise a ton of money. I come from the world where I don't believe that raising a lot of money is an indication that you've done something great. You might be
Sure.
a great fundraiser or you have a great network, but we want to do as much as we can with as little as possible, and so far we've been able to be very capital efficient.
Sure. And I mean, you're seeing that just currently with what's going on in the stock market and things, interest rates increasing. You're just seeing on the public side of things, these companies that have just tons and tons of funds built in,
Mhm.
valuations being slashed dramatically from that standpoint. So I share that same background of being cash efficient and being as much as you can self
Mhm.
sustaining. That's a good mindset to have, in my opinion, my very not non-professional opinion.
Yeah. If you stay customer focused, it will require that you're very capital efficient, because you can't grow at all costs. I mean, it really is like if we would miss um, talking to another customer if it meant that we got to keep talking to an existing customer. And those once you've already acquired customers, it's way cheaper to keep that person. And so you remain very capital efficient if you stay focused on the customer. And we've done that. And then I think one of our challenges is actually identifying where the bulk of our customer base comes from. And
Mm,
we actually think a lot of it is word of mouth. And so we've got quite a few affiliate partners and people that have said, I've mentioned that my friends should buy from Omnia, and they come back and they thank me. And I think as long as we keep getting that feedback, we've done something right.
sure, sure.
You don't have to pay for that. You just have to treat your customers right. You have to give them what you would expect, and I think we got to keep that attitude for sure.
Absolutely. As far as a geographic region, I'm curious, what are you seeing, or is this s- spread all over the United States? Where are you kind of seeing large groups of your customer base?
Yeah, in 2020, if you'd have asked me, I'd have said it was predominantly the Midwest,
Sure.
and that's just where our reach was.
Mhm.
In 2021, we shipped to all 50 states, and it was pretty cool to do. Like even Alaska and Hawaii.
I was gonna say, wow. I mean,
Yeah,
Alaska makes sense. There's a lot of fish. I guess there is a bunch of fishing in Hawaii too, but that's incredible.
yeah, that's pretty cool. And so we shipped all 50 states, and then I think like 4 provinces in Canada. And we have a pretty good customer base in the Toronto area, kind of where there's like kind of a bass hub right there, just kind of northwest of Toronto.
Sure.
And we we um, we just have very quickly seen there's not a lot of seasonality to our business anymore. There's some. There's always going to be some seasonality, but we'd have a big spike as we came into the season in the Midwest, and then it would kind of tip down in September, and then not really recover in the
Mm,
winter until we came back into season. And we're not seeing that anymore. So when things get too cold up here, we do stock a little bit of ice to keep our local customer the things that they need.
sure.
But we start seeing our sales shift to Florida and Texas and the Southeast and Alabama, and those people are coming back online January and February. So our sales are actually continuing to accelerate, and that seasonality is kind of pulled out quite a bit. We also think about growth of our business to not only have the right products and selection to service. So, like in Florida, you have to have Gambler soft plastics, otherwise
Sure.
you have to have those
You're out of
brands
the
that you
game.
want. That's right. So we've had to expand there and think about like our marketing strategy and also our stocking strategy to make sure we appeal to that region. Um, but we don't just judge our ability to make transactions in the state as a success. We also want to see engaged customers, because the way we help the consumers that want advice is the fishing reports that come in after purchase. So somebody will go out and buy some baits, they go out and fish, and they come back and they say, "This is the one that worked really great. This was the hot bait."
Mhm.
And they'll file a fishing report. Now, if you go in and you're going fishing Florida and you click into a fishing report on Lake Toho and you buy based on that fishing report, you actually we give tackle credit back to the person that wrote it. And so we're trying to create this community of people talking about baits and indicating hot baits. Well, that keeps training our algorithm, make it smarter and smarter and smarter, so we can make really good recommendations. And it's not always down to that one bait, but it's to a range of baits the way we classify
Technique or
them. Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Um, and so we judge our growth based on our ability to get customers to file these fishing reports, and then earn based on if we can connect them with somebody that reads it. And we have generated unbelievable amounts. It has exceeded all of our expectations. The people have responded really positively to it. So thousands and thousands of fishing reports in 46 states. So we're not at 50 yet. So no Montana, no Wyoming, no Alaska, no Hawaii. So there we
Oh,
are.
man.
Yeah.
Those are just
Call
4.
your friends. You're
That's
not that far from
I
Wyoming. Call
know,
your
man. I
friends.
was just gonna say, every once in a while, I'll go up and do some trout fishing or something in
Yeah.
Wyoming.
We don't have any. We're really bass focused, so that's probably the reason that we don't have anything there. But so thousands of fishing reports across 46 states. We've been pretty excited about that, and that has shown that our customer base really has gone national, and so both shipping and engagement are both very high right now across the whole United States.
Awesome. Awesome. And in your comment, as far as being very bass oriented, is there another, I mean, especially being the Midwest, are you seeing are you trying to carry anything walleye related or muskie related? Or, I mean, what's that kind of customer base look like compared to the bass guys?
Yeah, we have just enough product to be able to service them very thin. So if you're planning to go maybe catch some bass, and then the kids are going to try and catch some walleye or some panfish, we have enough to outfit pretty much everybody. But we haven't gone deep in any other species in a way that allows us to make our whole model work. Where you have such wide selection that you can recommend the products that you're actually using in your fishing reports. uh, I think it's a mistake to just go too wide too fast. It'd be really hard for us to keep up the quality of our bass products, and it would dilute out if we were to start really pushing hard in other species. Another national species that I think is next for us is crappie, and
Oh,
that
yeah.
that industry is changing so much. You think like the electronics and how they're using them, and the baits and crappie gear is getting cool. So I
It's
could see
cool.
starting to expand there at some point. We do have some partnerships that we haven't announced yet, some relationships that will help us get there faster. But we've stayed laser focused just because of the size of the bass industry. It's a language we speak. Most of our employees are big bass heads, and so we'll stay really focused there, and we're not going to lose focus on that, even when we do expand into some other species.
Sure. Well, 2 comments there. I guess one would be, I mean, the bass industry, what's your thought process, or what's your thoughts, I guess, just in general on the bass, why the bass industry versus the other ones? I mean, is there just that big of a size difference? I mean, you're talking to
There
someone
is.
who lives and breathes only the bass fishing industry, so I really don't look at anything else, but is it just that much larger than everything else?
It is substantially larger.
Hmm.
So we deal today in everything hand to fish's mouth. So anything between your hand and the fish's mouth, and it's like $4 to $5 billion in transactions in the United States, and bass is like 65 or 70% of it. It's
Wow.
absolutely unbelievable how big that is. And so it is by far the biggest. But what I mentioned about crappie being national, bass is also national. So even if you have a another, smallmouth or spots or stripes or whatever,
Yeah.
you're still dealing with the entire United States, and so it's great that you can build those relationships across the entire United States and service a really large group of participants.
Sure, and I think I mean, that's what draws a lot of anglers to bass fishing. It's what drew me to tournament bass fishing. I'm in Colorado. It's not a state for tournament bass fishing by any means, but we have tournaments. We have these bass lakes, and we can travel. And um, that is that makes sense maybe to why that number is so large. Is they live anywhere. That's what makes them so cool. They can live in something that is gross, looking in muddy water and all this stuff, to super gin clear water at Lake Havasu or in Nevada. So it's a completely they're so resourceful, those fish. They can eat anything.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, you'll find some walleyes in, I think there's some walleyes in Oklahoma and some deep lakes in like Tennessee and Kentucky, but bass are everywhere.
Yeah. Well, my second comment to all the crappie deal, I have just with forward facing sonar, I have went from strictly bass fishing to also now looking around and seeing these schools of crappie everywhere.
Yeah.
And then going ahead and catching those fish. So I agree. I think that there is a huge uptick right now from bass guys who have been traditionally just bass heads and eh, going straight into the crappie world because of what they're learning from their electronics.
Right. And I think there are some websites that have just tackle gear, and that's great for just bass. Just have just bass gear, and that's great for big selection for people that know what they're looking for. But our system is really easy to flip a switch, and you say, I'm looking for bass stuff, and we show those products, and say I'm just looking for crappie stuff, and just show those products. I'm just looking for bass stuff. Just show those fishing reports. I'm looking for, you can switch between species really quickly. And then when you build your profile at Omnia, you actually indicate your top species. You indicate the lakes that you fish, and when you do that, it allows us to give you this very personalized experience. So even when we expand into walleye stuff's not going to pop up for you. So it creates this unique experience that kind of follows you around, and make sure that the entire experience is very personalized. And if you fish in Florida, you're going to see baits that work great for Florida. If you fish in Minnesota, you're going to see baits that are great for Minnesota. And then if you want to see everything, you can see everything. But
Sure.
we want to refine it down so you get this very personalized experience.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, a lot of uniqueness there, and just been incredible. Just messing around on the site and looking at all the different things, and looking at how many people. Again, I think of when I think of Colorado in the bass fishing space, I think of such a small percentage of that, but the amount of lakes that have reports on them is just incredible. So everything seems to be just taking off. So congratulations with everything.
I appreciate it. Yeah, it's we're excited about the growth.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, Matt, don't want to take too much more of your time up here. I like to end every show with a couple of questions. Number one being, with everything that you have gone through in creating Omnia and building this business, and everything entrepreneurship wise, what is your biggest piece of advice to someone who is maybe at the beginning stage there of maybe they have a concept that they really feel would fix a big problem and go to that next level? What would be your biggest piece of advice be to someone like that?
Hmm. And maybe put it into two categories. I'd say gather as much information as you can, build a really strong financial model, like really understand what it's going to take to build your business, and try and think in these major milestones. And the milestones should be driven by, if it's investment or whatever it is, you have to get somewhere, whether that's profitable. Like you have to define your journey, and I think building that good financial model so you understand what you're targeting, and then make sure that you understand kind of where those milestones are along the way. And then I'll preface that by saying plan and spend a lot of time planning, but don't plan too long. Like you just have to go at some point. And I always joke when we when we raised our first round of capital, I think it was Reid Hoffman who started LinkedIn. He said, if you're not completely embarrassed by the first product you release, you've launched too late. And I'd say, like, we did a great job of that. Like, it was pretty embarrassing. Like,
You
you can
nailed
transact, but it was really embarrassing. So don't wait too long. Like, don't refine and refine and refine. Like, start driving towards that milestone and understand what that kind of that critical path looks like. But plan enough.
Sure.
Find that
There's
balance. Try and strike that balance and ask for help on that.
Sure, there's like a balance there, but I agree. I think so many people spend their lives planning and planning, and that action step is where you're going to learn everything and
Yeah.
move quickly.
Yeah, I mean, like some people that move fast are sometimes chaotic and reckless based on, relative to some other thought process, and I've probably been accused of that, but it helps if you're ready to just grind it out and keep rolling, like just go
Just
and
go.
just go.
I like it, man. I like it. Well, and I know you sent me some photos of dude, a giant muskie, a giant walleye. But on the bass front, I like to ask every guest, do you know your biggest largemouth and smallmouth and what you caught them on or where you were?
I'm surprisingly, even though we're very bass focused, I'm not a big bass guy. So I grew up in northern
You like chasing
Wisconsin.
the big predators, man. You sent me those photos. I was like, these are big. These are really big.
By the way, that is not a walleye. That's a zander. That's in the
That's a
Baltic Sea in
stand.
Sweden.
No
So
way.
that's a zander. So it's actually kind of cheating because they grow faster.
I was
So
gonna
like,
say they're bigger, right? Aren't they a little bigger?
yeah, they grow they're bigger, but they're a little bigger, but they just grow so fast. So like the
Nice.
30-inch mark is like pretty achievable, and that was like
I see.
31 inches. So I was cheating. I just want to clarify I'm not a cheater, but um, the I really don't have a lot of big largemouth. I
Yeah.
really about 3 pounds is the biggest largemouth I've ever caught, and I caught it in
Okay.
a lake just north of my house here in the metro, and I horsed it out with a jig fishing with a buddy of mine.
Awesome.
And so that's probably the biggest largemouth. And then I have caught some pretty decent sized smallmouth. I don't know
Okay.
full sizes, but I'm a big canoe guy, and we have this area in northern Minnesota called the Boundary Waters.
Been there
And oh, really? That's great.
one
That's great.
time, man. He's incredible. But sorry, go ahead. That place is
No,
yeah.
I want to hear more about that. But yeah, so I spent a lot of time in the Boundary Waters and walleye and smallmouth. I typically target smallmouth lakes when we're
Okay.
doing our base camping and where we're going to stop. So I've caught some, good 20s smallmouth bass and up there. And then I've also got smallmouth on a fly rod. That's a really incredible experience too,
Yeah.
in the Mississippi River. So
Very
that's pretty cool. Nothing like to take big pictures of or be too excited about, but
sure.
that I would say is the best experience is catching a smallie, which is such a great fighting fish, and to do it on a fly rod is pretty great.
Awesome. Yeah. And then I guess probably none up there, but on all your travels, have you ever caught any spotted bass?
I have caught a spot in I don't know that I've caught a spot.
Okay.
I've
I know
caught
the
some
resorts.
variants in North Carolina,
Oh yeah.
and so I'm originally from North Carolina. I was a military brat, and my sister actually lives in the Charlotte area on Lake Norman,
Mhm.
and so I've been down and we've caught some fish down there. But I think those are stripes.
Well, there's some spots in Norman for
There's
sure,
some
and
spots
stripe.
in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I can't remember. Nothing big, but we have definitely caught some non-largemouth
Gotcha.
in there.
Yeah. So, anyways, quick on the Boundary Waters. I between my senior year of high school and college, I did a trip with my dad to the Boundary Waters, and we yeah, I mean, it was 9 days. It was with a group of friends from Colorado, and it was incredible. I mean,
That's
just
great.
yeah, like I just some of those fish I've never seen anything before, and got some big pike and walleye and smallmouth. I had my previous personal best to this year was a smallmouth out of the Boundary Waters, and I actually caught a really big northern strain largemouth in the Boundary Waters, like a probably
Awesome.
4.5, 5 pounder. But I
That's
had no
awesome.
idea there was largemouth there, and I thought it was a pike, and it was for sure a largemouth.
Wow, I didn't know that either. That's wild.
Just one
That's
up in the
cool. That's
grass.
really cool. It's a great place, special place in my heart. I actually did my bachelor party there. So we
No way.
Yeah,
That's
that's
an
what
awesome bachelor party.
I got married. My wife and I had been together. My girlfriend at the time had been together for a really long time. So I was in my 30s. I'm like, I don't want to go downtown and just
Yeah,
party and get wasted. I want to go fishing in the Boundary Waters. And so my brother arranged it, and like 12 of us went up and just base camped and just fished and drank and had a good time.
Dude, that sounds like my kind of bachelor party. That's
Good.
that's awesome. You guys need to make that like a, I don't know, every 10 years or something, a trip,
That's
because
right. It's coming up.
that
It's
tradition.
coming
There you
up.
go. Awesome, man. Well, Matt, I really appreciate you taking the time out, man. You had some awesome insight, and just this is what this show's all about, are hearing these entrepreneurial stories and everything around Omnia. So thanks again for coming on, and I will let you get back to your evening.
All right, gotta go corral the kids.
The kids? I thought you said the
Yeah.
cat. The cat or the kids? Both.
They seem like cats. Corralling the cats seems like what I'm actually doing.
Awesome,
Thanks,
man.
Adam. Good
Yep.
seeing you.
Absolutely. Good to see you.